Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 7 of Naruto, Student of Madara. If you guys enjoy this what if, and want to see part 8 of it, comment down below, and let me know. The like goal for this video is 100 likes. So like this video, to let me know that you're interested in this series, and you want the next part. And go ahead, and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Pathetic, thought Naruto. He was currently tied to a chair and bound with rope. How did I get into this mess? Everything was going great, before I was fucking taken hostage, and tied to a chair within a dark room with only one light. But did they have to take my shirt? Pathetic. If I could mold my chakra at the time, I could have killed them easily, but the gas also had to mess with my senses, making taijutsu near impossible. Flashback. Kamiyonaneo, thought Naruto. Just before the killing blow was made, something blocked the katana of the Iwa nin. What? Whispered the nin. It was a side. And the one who was holding it was a priest wearing black robes and a strange mask. The mask had two pointed ears resembling a fox and three eyes. The Iwa nin was cowering under the glare of the mask. Where did it come from? The black-robed priest pushed the Iwa nin back, and with a swing of its side the sickle-like wave appeared and cut through the nin, but it didn't kill him, but he found that all his chakra was gone. Possibly that wave-like energy drained his chakra from the black-robed priest's attack. The other Iwa shinobi were unsure of what to do. Their partner wasn't dead, so why was he just standing there? Naruto stared blankly at the nins, but his breathing was heavy from all the poison gas. He focused as much chakra as he could into his right eye, and a blue ring appeared behind him bearing the kanji for jewel. An angelic priestess burst through the ring. She wore flowing cream-colored robes and translucent turbans. She too had a mask with two fox-like ears and three eyes, however she had a red crown-like accessory on its mask. The priestess gathered up chakra that the black-robed priest stole and focused intently. She created a glowing ball of white transparent chakra and threw it at the enemy shinobi, which forced them to fly back onto a street. They were relatively unharmed, and their wounds were superficial. Naruto was struggling to stay conscious, but the jutsu was wearing down all his chakra. The gas was causing his chakra control to go haywire, and the sleeping effect was hampering his physical abilities, and was wearing down upon him swiftly. He was foolish to believe that the chakra signatures outside his hotel room were Kiri Shinobi Mei had sent. And he didn't focus on his sensor abilities to reveal the location of the shinobi who threw the canister into the room. Naruto was trying to maintain control and focus on his two creations. But the gas was affecting his concentration, and he was becoming incredibly drowsy. He got up onto his feet, and with his remaining strength propelled himself out of the hotel room, breaking through the walls. He landed on the ground, but tumbled a bit. His feet came in contact with the ground, coughing all the way, his two priests following after him. When he was outside, he saw that the Iwa shinobi had recovered from the priestess's attack. His remaining strength was waning on him, and the blonde lost consciousness and his two priests puffed away in smoke. No one and Kiri were able to get to the disturbance fast enough to ascertain who caused it, and by then the enemy shinobi had already taken Naruto. Flashback end. When Naruto woke up, he found out that he was tied to a chair in a dark room. He could only guess that the Iwa nins captured him and later restrained him. He was currently wondering where Conan was. Was she trying to rescue him, or did she not give a shit about him? And where the fuck was Zetsu when you needed him most? Deciding that Naruto was just going to sit back and find out what the Iwa nins wanted, he relaxed in the chair, not caring about anything in particular, or what the Iwa nins were going to do. Did they want to bring him to Iwa, to turn him into a breeder for the Sharingan? The ancient and stubborn Kage Inoki probably wanted him to join his village, or was it out of revenge for all the Iwa nins he killed a few days ago? He sighed happily. He was going to enjoy whatever amusing torture the Iwa nins had in mind. Madara had personally put Naruto through the worst kind of torture imaginable, by using Tsukiyomi to keep him within the world for days, torturing him non-stop. Zetsu questioned the old man's sanity at the time, believing that it was overkill to keep a person within Tsukiyomi for weeks at a time, torturing them. Although the end result was amazing, it helped Naruto build up his mental fortitude, and gave him a high resistance to pain. His thoughts then traveled to one of his Dojutsu's techniques. The Kamiyonaneo was described by Madara to be the greatest battle jutsu in the world. But that Naruto could create his own unique beings made entirely out of his chakra. It was similar to the Susanoo, but on a more advanced level, where like the Susanoo it created beings made of chakra, but instead of a skeletal soldier. The beings made from the Kamiyonaneo were more like shock troopers than soldiers. But there was more to the Kamiyonaneo than creating personal guardians with their own individual powers. There was far more to that eye ability than the Tsukiyomi, or even the forbidden eye techniques of the Uchiha clan. Naruto had accidentally discovered this exclusive ability when he added too much chakra into his right eye when practicing with the blaze release. The result was 9 created constructs, each with a different shape and abilities. However, that was for the right eye. The left eye was far more versatile and powerful, but both eyes at once using the Kamiyonaneo was truly a jewel among pearls. Naruto tried to focus his chakra, but he found that his chakra was being actively suppressed. Focusing even more, he found the chakra suppression seal on the nape of his neck. From all he knew about Iwagakure, he knew that they were at least decent in seals. The chakra suppression seal was created by the Uzumaki clan, Naruto's clan. So he knew the advantages and drawbacks of the seal, and he could use his knowledge to escape. That is, if someone rescues him before then. The shackles that we're currently holding were weak and made of soft, flexible metal, therefore it would be easy for him to break in part to his physical strength that he advanced in the years. But he knew that even with taijutsu he wasn't on the level of Might Guy, the green idiot of the hidden leaf. But he was confident enough that he believed he could kill the Iwa ninjas with one hand. But then he remembered his capture. He truly was pathetic that shinobi fodder such as Iwa could capture him. He admitted that the only people who could defeat him were Nagato and possibly Obito. Nagato because of his skill with the Rinnegan and his experience in battle, but the leader of the Akatsuki's arrogance was a weakness he needed to fix. And Obito, but that was because Naruto overestimated him. Naruto was brought out of his musings by a door opening in front of him. A person walked in wearing a brown flak jacket. He had slightly spiky, brown hair and brown eyes. When the nin looked at Ryu, he sneered at the tied-up blonde. "Hello," said Ryu with an annoying smirk. The nin narrowed his eyes at the Sharingan wielder. The nin scrutinized the man in front of him. He was laid back and relaxed as if nothing could affect him in his content world despite being tied up like a criminal on trial. The blonde was also well sculpted in muscle, and there wasn't a scar on his body, except for a spot above his heart, where it looked like he was hit by a lightning bolt that arced outwards. "Can you untie these bonds, please?" The Iwa nin looked up to see Naruto smirking at him happily. "Can you please untie these bonds?" stated Naruto with a big grin, as if finding the situation funny. The Iwa nin's eye twitched a little in annoyance. "My name is Kuri Genseki, I am a jonin in service to Tsuchikage-sama." But he stopped his sentence when he noticed Naruto wasn't listening, as if he wasn't worth his attention. He gained a tick mark on his forehead at the level of attention Naruto was giving him. "Hey," yelled Kuri. Naruto snapped his head and gave him his attention to the nin. "What?" asked Naruto, shrugging his shoulders. Kuri's face puffed up in anger, and he gained a prominent tick mark that was pulsing. "You killed my brother," said Kuri, gritting his teeth. Though Naruto stared him blankly, which seemed to unnerve Kuri a little. Naruto sighed and breathed in some air. He closed his eyes and started thinking about who was the person he killed. But then he realized he didn't care. "You think I care about your problems, and you believe that I actually do," spoke Naruto as he opened his eyes. "Honestly, I could care less who I kill. Your brother did his duty as a shinobi serving his village. He died like a shinobi. No, he died like a dog," said Naruto scornfully. He then felt a fist impact against his face. Kuri was shaking with rage, and he was grinding his teeth. But Naruto continued on with his psychological warfare, intent on finding what the shinobi wanted, but he guessed it was revenge. "I slaughtered him just like all the others. He couldn't ever think of defeating me. None of them were worth my time, but it felt good watching his life slip away," lied Naruto. "He was the ninja who I killed via lacerations to the heart, correct?" asked Naruto. Another punch to the face was his answer, and he knew he was right. "He had a child," yelled Kuri. But Naruto continued smirking. He didn't care if he had a grandmother. "I don't have what he has," said Naruto with his smirk. Kuri punched Ryu again and left the room. All throughout that talk, Naruto was sending enormous amounts of chakra into the suppression seal. Conan was currently speaking to the Mizukage about what had happened at her and Ryu's hotel room. When the blue-haired woman arrived at the hotel after a mission the Mizukage gave her, she saw that the door had been blown nearly off its hinges. There were tumbled over items, as if there had been a scuffle in the room. However, Ryu's items were still there, such as his katana, and his coat and Akatsuki cloak. However, Ryu himself was missing. Even though she had been partners with the blonde for a while, Conan knew that he would never leave behind his katana or his coat. So where was her partner? Shortly after the Mizukage's forces arrived to investigate what had happened. "My Anbu are currently looking into what has happened at the hotel, and who could have caused it and why," said Mei in a professional voice. "I just care about getting my partner back," said Conan emotionlessly. She had many questions that only Ryu could answer, and she needed them answered, and soon. She meant to ask him after his date with the Mizukage, but her mission took longer than expected, and then there was this mess. "My Anbu were able to discover a few pieces of evidence that could lead us to the perpetrators," said Mei as she took out a scroll and unsealed its contents. There was a used-up canister, a gas mask, and a katana. Conan inspected the gas mask and canister. They were used in recon units to capture targets, judging by the canister's model and the gas mask. It didn't take a genius to figure out that it was linked to the canister, but the katana, Conan had seen the same brand of that sword. It was shorter than the average sword, but it had a square-shaped guard and brown hilt. "That katana is a model used usually by shinobi from Iwagakure," informed Conan. Mei wasn't surprised by Conan's information. In the past Iwagakure had utilized the Akatsuki, so it'd be natural for Conan to recognize the sword. But still, why kidnap Ryu? Iwa has always been a village who couldn't rein in their emotions very well. Given the many assassinations attempts on the Yondaime Hokage after the Third Shinobi World War. Suddenly Ao burst into the room. He was sweating, and his breathing was heavy. "Mizukage-sama, we found this is near the crime scene," said Ao as he held up an Iwagakure hit aid. "There are only a few possible explanations why Iwa is here, more specifically, Ryu," said Conan, her face not betraying any emotion. 1. The Tsuchikage ordered a shinobi to capture Ryu and possibly use him as a breeder for the Sharingan, if he does possess it naturally, because I don't believe his Sharingan is a gift from someone like he said it was. Or to join their village strengthening Iwagakure, by training its next generation of shinobi. 2. Some of the Tsuchikage's shinobi have gone against his orders, and have taken it upon themselves to eliminate Ryu in revenge, or because he is a threat to their village, theorized Conan. May not her head in agreement because it sounded like something Iwa would do considering all it's done in the past. Now, have 3 teams of Oinin, to track down the shinobi, that took Ryu-kun, ordered May. Already have Mizukage-sama, we were able to find a trail leading out of Kiri, said Ao. May smiled in gratitude and dismissed Ao. Naruto was still sitting in the dark room. He continuously channeling enormous amounts of chakra into the seal. His clan created the seal, and they sold it to all the other nations, or was stolen from in Iwa's case. But most didn't know the weakness to the seal. By focusing large and continuous amounts of chakra into the seal, will the seal itself wear down and eventually break. However, it takes a while for the seal to actually break. He heard a lock click and the door in front him open to reveal 4 Iwa nin, all with sneers on their faces. "We have time before he arrives," said one of the nins. "But he wants him unharmed," said another. Naruto raised his eyebrow at the banter, but decided not to look into it. "We'll just use medical ninjutsu to heal him," said another. A smirk appeared on Naruto's face. "Let's just do it. What can he do? He's an old man, and this one is tied up," said the last nin, gesturing towards Naruto. "This is going to be fun," said a voice within the room. The nins looked at Ryu, who had an annoying yet arrogant smirk. "That's our line," said a shinobi who was particularly annoyed by this smirk. Then all the nins started beating Naruto within an inch of his life. All the while the blonde had the same smirk throughout the beating. He had suffered much worse in his time in Konoha. What the Iwa shinobi were giving him was a massage. 3 men were walking on a road towards the land of water. 2 had distinctive Anbu masks, but instead they wore attire different from normal Anbu. And each had a tanto sheathed on the back of their right shoulders. The third individual was walking slowly, and it appeared he had withered in time as he was walking with a cane. "Has the Iwagakure shinobi captured the target?" asked the third individual. "Yes, my lord, they are currently holding him in a bunker on one of the islands that dot the land of water. Within a few more hours we should be there," answered one of the other individuals. "Very good, as long as the asset is mostly intact, I have no qualms," said the man with the cane. "But my lord, can we truly trust him?" said the other person among the trio. "Yes we can, for we gained the Sharingan and a useful pawn. I just have to use that, if it doesn't go according to plan," said the man with the cane. The trio were currently unaware that they were being tailed by shinobi wearing demon masks and wielding katanas. One of the trio sensed their presences through their chakra. He craned his eyes, searching the forest they were walking through. "My lord," stated the censor among the group. "Yes, I know," said the man with the cane. He then stabbed his crane into the ground, where it stayed there standing like a statue. "I have not seen combat for quite a while. This is perfect chance to get my muscles all limbered and supple." The old man then began shifting the bandages around his right eye, revealing a blood-red Sharingan. "Do not interfere, this won't take long," ordered the old man. Suddenly 4 shinobi wearing dark green flak jackets sprang out, formed the tree line, their katanas at the ready, aimed for the kill. The old man went through some hand seals, now revealing that he had a fully functional right arm behind his black robe. He drew in some breath, and faced the shinobis who attempted to attack him with crescent move like waves of cutting winds. The ninja in mid-air couldn't redirect their trajectory as they were sliced up by the wind currents. They tumbled on the ground and landed in heaps, one landing near the old man with the Sharingan, and a katana landing near his feet. The only living nin gasped in pain from all the wounds on his body. The old man grasped the katana and held it over the nin's head. "Is your target the Konoha elder, or me personally?" asked the bandaged man. The nin gasped out a "kill me" in response. "Well, not that it matters anyway." The bandaged man stabbed his katana into the shinobi's head, killing him instantly. A rain of kunai flew from the tree line straight at the hidden leaf elder. The man used his unbandaged arm and grabbed the collar of the nin, using him as a human shield, protecting him from the kunai. The old man's Sharingan scanned among the trees, picking out his targets. 7, 8, 9, 10, 17 in total, thought the shinobi as he scrutinized his enemies. More kunai flew from the trees intending to kill the man. The man still used the body as a makeshift shield, and the kunai kept impacting against the body, while the old man went through some more hand seals behind the corpse. He pushed the body aside, and aimed his jutsu at the trees. Wind release, vacuum serial waves, yelled the man as he fired multiple waves of eviscerating wind at the trees. Some shinobi didn't have much time to move before their bodies were bisected from the wind. The shinobi that were able to escape drew their katanas and charged at the bandaged man. The man grasped the katana that was in his human shield's head, then engaged the nins in kenjutsu. The man had years of combat experience under his belt, so he was able to parry, dodge and slice all the nins in his sight. Most of them were cut down before they could register that they were dead. He threw his katana at a shinobi, where it pierced his head, killing the nin. The man went through some more hand seals, and prepared his jutsu. Wind release, vacuum sphere, yelled the man as he exhaled numerous bullets like blasts of wind at his remaining enemies. The bullets penetrated their flak jackets and flesh easily. 3 shinobi fell to the ground dead, while 3 more still lived. The old man took up his sword again, and engaged the shinobi in swordplay. He killed another nin, by stabbing him in the neck with his sword, where he then used the body as a shield, where the 2 other shinobi stabbed the body. Using the opportunity that the ninja were close to him, the bandaged man removed the katana via slashing the neck, and killing the last 2 combatants in a swift and grisly strike. The man's lone Sharingan watched as the last of his attackers fell to the ground, and he stood there, not a drop of blood on his wrinkled body. These are remnants of the Hanyu Black Ops from the land of woods that we eliminated in the past, informed one of the old man's traveling companions. It's always been like this, snakes always look for the slightest opportunity to strike, said the man. Now that you have come out of the shadows, incidents like this will increase our headaches in lots of ways. This may become more troublesome for you, sir, said the other traveling companion. Shinobi once belonged to a world of aesthetics, to be nameless and anonymous. Your existence hidden from the world was a source of pride, said the man as he grasped his cane that hadn't moved from its spot. By controlling what's seen and what's hidden can one truly strengthen village and nation. That is why I respect Ryu Yakuza. He is everything a shinobi must be in this world. Deceptive, cunning, ruthless. He doesn't allow the world to see him, unless he wants to be seen, and when he is seen he inspires fear with his power. When he infiltrated the village he purposely revealed his presence when he was compromised, and before that he was hidden in plain sight. Let the people mask you, so that you are one with the crowd. He knows this best of all, and as quickly as he appeared he disappeared, as if he was phantom. That is what a shinobi must do, what ninja must be. He is the pinnacle of what shinobi must represent, and I will have him as my pawn, proclaimed the old man. We should arrive at the bunker within an hour or so, if we keep up our previous pace, informed one of the trio. Good, I am quite eager to meet Yakuza-san, and when I have him on my side I will be supplying the village with a powerful weapon, one that is far more exceptional than Kakashi Hatake or possibly Sakumo Hatake. Not even Tsunade will repudiate the decision, for even though he killed all those Anbu he is worth more than 50 of them, said the man as he shifted his bandages on his eye to their original position. With that the trio reignited their journey to the land of water. Naruto didn't feel anything. The fists striking his face were tickling him. What he went through at the hands of the civilians was far worse than any beating. And throughout the beating he had the same annoying smirk all the way through. He wondered why Zetsu had yet to contact him. The plant man was loyal to him, so where was he now? If he hadn't gotten captured by ninja fodder this wouldn't have happened, but now that has occurred to him, the canister and the gas it excreted didn't come from Iwagakure but from Konoha. Someone in the leaf wanted to capture him, and they supplied the Iwanins with the necessary tools. Naruto felt like a headless chicken for not seeing it sooner. The Iwanins then stopped their brutal beating, and took a look at their work. Ryu's face was red and puffy, and he was bleeding from his mouth and nose. There wasn't a part of his face that wasn't bruised. His nose was slightly disfigured, and his lips and eyelids were swollen. It's as if he appeared out of a bad painting given the extent of the injuries. Do you think he's had enough? Asked one of the 4 Iwa shinobi as he looked at the beaten Ryu. Yeah, he's had enough, besides we can't have him die on us since that mummy needs him, said another ninja as he spat on Naruto. The 4 shinobi then left the room promising to heal Naruto later. But they didn't notice that some of Naruto's wounds were already starting to heal, and he still had that same smirk. Zetsu appeared in its usual manner via slinking from the ground in front of Naruto. The clone's Venus flight trap appendage opened up, revealing the black and white man. When it looked at Naruto, the white one's eye widened a little in horror, but the black showed no emotion. Naruto would heal from the beating in a few seconds. Naruto, are you okay? Asked White Zetsu nervously. Naruto's eyes had healed enough so that he could see, and he subconsciously glared at White Zetsu for asking such a stupid and obvious question. What do you think, Zetsu? Asked Naruto out of the blue with a hint of sarcasm. Well, I'm going to say that you're not okay, replied Zetsu, which caused Naruto to tighten his glare. The black Zetsu, getting unnerved by the glare, even though it wasn't aimed at him, decided to tell Naruto of what they had discovered. I found it, stated black Zetsu, which caused Naruto to look at him with wide eyes. And soon Naruto grinned in happiness. You found it, repeated Naruto. Where has it been all this time? In a temple within the land of lightning guarded by monks that are cut off from society, responded Black Zetsu. Perfect, now, can you untie me? Asked Naruto, whose happy grin was still in full sway. He was happy, because of the one thing he was searching for had been found, an artifact of legend. Oh yes, sorry, spoke White Zetsu. But before either party could do anything, they heard the click of the door and Zetsu materialized into the ground, while Naruto's injuries had fully rejuvenated. When the door opened, it revealed a man wearing a white shirt with a black robe with a purple obi. He had one arm, and it appeared he had lost the other long ago, along with his right eye, which was concealed by bandages. He had black shaggy, spiky hair, lots of wrinkles, and an X-shaped scar on his chin. Naruto widened his eyes in surprise. He knew this man from long ago. Flashback. 7-year-old Naruto was walking through the halls of the Hokage Tower. Today he was meeting the Hokage, who he had dubbed Chichi, because he was like a grandfather to him. The blonde would visit the old Kage 3 days a week. The old man had been kind enough to give him an apartment and a weekly allowance, so that he could live with. But Naruto always wondered why the Hokage was interested in him and only him. None of the other orphans were given the privilege to meet the Hokage, unless they were in the ninja academy, and even seeing him as an academy student was rare. He passed by the Hokage's secretary that instinctively scowled at him, but he paid her no mind as he kept walking to his Chichi's office. When he was right in front of the door, he heard voice behind it, as if both were arguing with each other. I have told you before and many times, Danzo, that he is just a boy, not a tool. Naruto heard the Hokage's words from behind the door and he pressed his ear against the door, intent on listening in some more. He is not a tool, Hiruzen, but a weapon. Under my guidance, he will become the greatest weapon Konoha has ever produced, if you just hand him over to me, said the man now known as Danzo. Watch what you say, Danzo. I will not stand by and watch as you turn that pure-hearted boy into one of your emotionless dogs, continued Sarutobi. He is not a boy, he is a human sacrifice. Sacrifice is the way of shinobi, rebuked Danzo. The two men glared at each other, unaware of the little spy behind the door. We have had this discussion before, Danzo, spat Sarutobi as if it was poison on his tongue. You will never get your hand on that power, so leave before I force you out, threatened Hiruzen with a small amount of killing intent, which made the Warhawk back down. And with that, Danzo stormed out of the office. I will get the Kyuubi one day, Hiruzen, I promise you that, thought Danzo, never looking over his shoulder. When Danzo opened the door, his lone beheld the subject of the conversation with him and the Hokage. Naruto shivered a little under the cold stare of the bandaged man. Naruto couldn't feel anything coming from this man. It was as if he was empty like the void. Danzo didn't say a word, but left without offering a glance back at Naruto. Flashback end. Danzo, snarled Naruto within his mind. Danzo hobbled into the room, his cane tapping against the ground was the only sound as it echoed off the walls. He snapped his fingers as two men wearing customized clothing with Anbu masks walked into the room carrying a chair and laid it down directly opposite of Naruto. It seemed these two were Danzo's servants. The old man sat down in the chair and stared at Ryu with a calculating gaze, as if trying to discern something from the blonde. But the Konoha elder also noticed how much resemblance there was between this man and Naruto Uzumaki. But their old badger brushed off those thoughts because it was confirmed by Jiraiya that Naruto Uzumaki, the Yondarume's legacy, was dead. Hello Yakuza-san, greeted Danzo in a formal manner. It is a pleasure to finally meet you in person. I have heard many things from you and regarding your exploits. Naruto's face held no emotion and just continued to stare at Danzo blankly. However, Danzo was able to read Ryu. He could immediately see that Ryu was a shinobi who kept his emotions in check and never showed any kind of softness. Given your power and your mastery of the Sharingan and your other abilities, I have little doubt that you are a remarkable shinobi who will make the correct decisions when you are faced with obstacles that require those decisions, continued Danzo. For a split second, Naruto saw something that would appear to be approval. Naruto continued to stare coldly at Danzo, and finally spoke up after deducing that the old badger wouldn't leave until he received answers. Your compliments are gratifying, and your confidence in my ability fills me with pride, but you have yet to introduce yourself since you already know me, spoke Ryu emotionlessly. He knew that despite his frail appearance that Danzo was an incredibly dangerous individual who kept his skills refined. He was considered a prime candidate for the Hokage position, so that meant he had power to back it up. Oh yes, how could I forget? It's the only polite thing to do when introducing someone. I am Danzo Shimura, an elder of the Konohagakure, replied Danzo, who had yet to show any emotion. Now onto the real reason I am here. I have come to extend an offer that will only be given once, said Danzo cautiously. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the old man. I want you to join Konoha, forsake the Akatsuki, and serve under me as a root agent, offered Danzo. I will give you whatever you wish for a desire in return, and I can pardon all the crimes you have committed against the village, while also offering protection from the Akatsuki. Naruto raised his eyebrow at the man. He wanted him to join Konoha and become an operative of Root. Thank you for the generous offer. Started Ryu, a small smirk played on the lips of Danzo. But I politely refuse, for I don't wish to work for a piss hole such as Konoha. Why would I want to be surrounded by idiots, and twits who are more likely to trip and fall on their own kunai? Said Ryu sardonically. Danzo's lips pursed tightly at the Sharingan wielder's insults to his village. Knowing that he couldn't get Ryu to join through normal means, Danzo decided to use his trump card. Are you sure? You could become a great operative among Root, spoke Danzo in a last-ditch effort. At what point did I ever claim to join Konoha? I loathe their village. I hope. No, I dream that all your civilians are butchered and raped on the streets, while your children become slaves to your conquerors, and as you take one last look at your shining Konoha, the Hokage monument will wither and decay and shall be nothing more than dust. Your leaves will burn in the smoke-permeated wind, and your will of fire will be nothing more than a dying ember on the verge of becoming ash, and then nothing of it shall remain but my joyous laughter, said Naruto sinfully with a deathly smirk as he made eye contact with Danzo, which caused Danzo to sweat a little. The Konoha elder stared back at Ryu. Danzo did not expect Ryu to act or speak so callously against Konoha. He had only assumed that he infiltrated the village just for the duration. If there was an animal that would be best described as Ryu Yakuza, it would be a fox. No. Greater than a fox, a wolf, cunning, treacherous, protective, aggressive, loyal, powerful. These are the words that would describe the wolf known as Ryu Yakuza. I must use it now. Yakuza is too much of a threat judging on how he killed the elite of the village, thought Danzo frantically. He channeled chakra into his right eye, preparing one of the greatest genjutsu in the world. Kodomatsu. Danzo-sama, said one of the old Badger's Root operatives as he walked through the door. This took Danzo by surprise, but he didn't show it, and the surprise caused Danzo to accidentally cancel his jutsu. The Iwanin are demanding to see you and to talk about the payment for their services. Danzo turned his head slightly and glanced at his subordinate through his left eye. He nodded slightly and got up off the chair. Very well, let us discuss the payment, said Danzo as he hobbled out of the room, leaving Ryu alone. Danzo and his other Root operative were walking through the old bunker that Ryu was being held in. The bunker itself was used by Kira years ago, but fell out of use after the Second Shinobi World War. The 4 Iwanin who had captured Ryu were waiting within a small room around a rectangular table. Danzo walked into the room and sat at a chair reserved for him. The payment, said Kurigan Seki, who was obviously the leader among the 4. Yes, the payment, you shall have it, spoke Danzo. Suddenly all the shinobi's throats were slit by the tantos of Danzo's subordinates. The payment of your lives would be sufficient enough. Now I am aware that I contracted more Iwa shinobi than these 4, so we will have to deal with them, or allow Yakuza-san to deal with them. Now back on my appointment with the wolf. But before Danzo could get out of his chair, he felt a massive force shook the foundations of the bunker, causing some dust within the room to be disheveled. Danzo-sama, this quake is being caused by Yakuza's chakra, said one Root soldier who was a censor. Unbelievable. He's doing this with just his chakra, said the other Root soldier who was exasperated. We're leaving now, this bunker is underground, it could come down on top of us, ordered Danzo, who kept a cool composure. With Naruto a few minutes earlier, Naruto was still thinking over Danzo's offer to return to the Leaf Village. But the words he spoke were true. He never wanted to go back to that village, ever. He couldn't be bothered to destroy it at the time because of the Eye of the Moon plan, which would force everyone into the dreamscape where Konoha would no longer matter. He had to get to the temple within the Land of Lightning, the one that was holding the artifact he wanted. He also had to meet up with the Akatsuki to remind them that he wasn't dead. Then he felt something at the nape of his neck. The chakra suppression seal was broken. He could now manipulate his chakra freely, although he had lost at least quarter of his reserves trying to destroy the seal. He used his enhanced strength to break the shackles which were constricting him. He then pressed 2 of his fingers against the seal on his left wrist and smoke appeared around his form. When the smoke dissipated, it revealed Naruto in his black samurai-like armor. However, he lacked his weapons. Zetsu appeared out of the ground beside Naruto. There are only a few Iwanins left, and Danzo and his lackeys are in a different room in the bunker. Seeing as how you lack your weapons, maybe you should rely on those, stated Zetsu. Naruto didn't respond, but he registered what Zetsu said and what he meant. Kamiyananeo, thought Naruto as he channeled chakra into his right eye, allowing his eternal Mingekyo to be shown to the world. And a massive blue mandala sprouted behind him, each with a different ring and kanji on it. Come forth, started Naruto. Seryu. From the azure ring burst forth an azure, Japanese dragon taller than a human. It had 2 large horns and 3 eyes along with fox-like ears. Byakko. From the white ring a white, slender and lean tiger which also had 3 eyes and fox ears along with sharp teeth came forth. Suzaku. From the vermilion ring appeared a vermilion bird with elegant and dramatic plumage, and it too had the same mask, but with a beak and a feather on its crown. Genmu. From the black ring a tortoise with black overlapping plates and a white bushy tail burst forth from the ring, and it had the standard mask 3 eyes, fox ears. Kinja. From the sky ring a golden snake with a long body, surfaced only it had the standard mask like its predecessors. Tenyo. From the jewel ring a celestial maiden with flowing cream robes and lavender translucent ribbons appeared. Shinigami. From the three ring came a skeletal black-robed priest carrying a scythe. Hakuto Senin. From the north ring a priest with traveling robes and a fox staff arose. Nanto Senin. From the south ring a priest with a near-identical shape to the Hakuto Senin appeared, and it too had a fox staff. The two sages both had 3 eyes and fox-like ears. All of the 9 masked beasts gathered around Naruto, as if protecting him. No matter how many times I see them, they never cease to amaze me, said Zetsu in awe of the beasts. While leaving Zetsu, yelled Naruto. The Sarayu walked ahead of Naruto, and charged forward using its amazing strength, to break down the door. Naruto walked on ahead with his loyal beasts trailing behind him. Naruto soon found the exit, but not before sending the Byakko to scout ahead. Naruto could order his beasts mentally, therefore making the creatures unpredictable to enemy ninja. Once the Byakko had scouted ahead, it ran back to Naruto's position, signaling that it was safe. Naruto made it outside the bunker, and he could feel the rays of the sun shining down on him. But it was short-lived, as Iwa shinobi surrounded Naruto from all sides, but some appeared anxious, as if not wanting to battle the masked beasts that surrounded the blonde. 9 masked beasts, have fun, mentally commanded Naruto. The beasts sprung into action, catching the shinobi off guard with their sudden actions. Naruto was still standing in the same spot, arms folded as he watched his beasts fight for him. Usually Naruto would get involved because his main fighting style was heavily dependent on his masked beasts like his shadow clones. Maybe it was because of his love for the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu that created the 9 beasts, because they fought as if they were clones of Naruto. He also discovered that the Kyuubi had more effect on him than he thought, as he wondered why his beasts had fox ears and the sages had fox staffs, but it didn't matter for the moment. But this time he decided to watch, since it had been a long time since he brought all his beasts out. At the corners of his eyes Naruto saw kunai flying towards him. The blonde was unafraid of the kunai. He didn't make any attempt to move out of the weapon's path. A purple barrier formed before Naruto as it blocked the kunai, causing the weapons to drop to the floor. The Hakuto Senin and the Nanto Senin flew to Naruto's position, as they were clearly the ones who created the barrier. The Sarayu and the Byakko were tearing the nins apart with their claws. Their great speed was too much for the nins before they were cut down. The Genbu and the Suzaku were either crushing the shinobi under their weight, or were lifting them up in the air, and letting gravity do the rest. The Kinja, Shinigami and the Tenyo were binding their opponents with their ribbons of their bodies, where the Shinigami would siphon their chakra, and the Tenyo would give back that chakra in its attacks. Only a few minutes passed, and the shinobi fighters stood little chance against the beasts. Naruto popped his neck because he had a rather bad crick in a certain spot. As he surveyed the carnage, he only wished they were stronger, so that he could have his loyal beasts use their more powerful techniques. But alas, it wasn't so, which depressed Naruto slightly. Zetsu walked up to the blonde, and watched the beasts return to their master's side. "They act like your clones," stated Zetsu as he noticed similarities between the shadow clone and the 9 masked beasts, well more like the way they fought instead of appearance, as Naruto uses them to overwhelm his enemies. "Although they acquire far less chakra," explained Naruto. "I've always wondered what happens when they die," asked White Zetsu. Naruto didn't look at the artificial human, but he heard the question. "I tested out that question, so I ran my katana through the Tenyo, and I couldn't use that certain beast for at least a day," clarified Naruto. Zetsu nodded in understanding. Zetsu turned to a certain direction as he sensed nearby chakra. Naruto had yet to sense it, because Black Zetsu was just a better sensor. "There are 12 chakra signatures heading in this direction. Among them are 2 signatures that have high reserves. They are most likely the Mizukage and your partner Conan," spoke Black Zetsu. "What about Danzo?" questioned Naruto. "He's long gone. He fled when the overwhelming pressure of your chakra you were emitting through your beasts caused him to flee back to Konoha," spoke Black Zetsu. "He tried to recruit me into his Anbu branch known by the name of Root," explained Naruto. "He said he would pardon me of my crimes towards the village, but I politely refused, like a gentleman." "Did you threaten him? His village? Or his family?" queried Zetsu. "Village," answered Naruto bluntly. Zetsu nodded his head. "You should leave. I don't want you around the Mizukage or Conan. It would raise too much suspicion." Zetsu melted into the ground, but not before saying goodbye to his master. The 9 beasts started to fade away into dust as Ryu mentally dismissed them. Ryu turned his gaze onto 2 corpses of his victims, and his eternal Mingekyo started to spin. Mei and Conan had been traveling for the past few hours following Ao and a select squad of Oinin and Anbu. They were successfully able to find a trail leading them to Ryu, and the Mizukage hoped that the blonde was still within the land of water, for if he wasn't, there was nothing she could do without provoking a war. Conan was slightly anxious. She needed Ryu's answers. She needed to know his motives. She was like a cat, too curious for her own good. Instead of splitting into her paper butterflies, she decided to stay with the Mizukage and her forces. "Mizukage-sama, we've discovered something," yelled Ao. The large party landed within a field which was coated with a light mist and dark trees. But what horrified them was that there were bodies strewn about. Some were mutilated by what looked like claw marks. Others were disfigured, as if they had been crushed by some great weight. And some were missing limbs altogether. They were able to see brown flak jackets which were caked in blood, and the red liquid stained the grass they were walking on. And in the middle of it was Ryu, who was sitting on a corpse twirling a kunai in between his armored fingers. And yet there wasn't a drop of blood on his muscled body or samurai-like armor. Naruto tilted his head to look at his partner and Tsuchikage. "Sup?" said Naruto with a grin. "You're late, missed out on all the fun." "Ryu-kun, we thought you were captured," said the Mizukage, but no one noticed her blunder. "I was, but I was able to escape and killed my captors. As you can see, they weren't much of a challenge," continued Naruto. He walked over to the Mizukage's forces, and while on the way Mei gave him a soft kiss on the cheek and whispered a "glad you're safe" in his ear, which caused him to blush a little. Many of the men glared at Ryu in jealousy. "That's supposed to be me," was the common thought shared among the male populace. Conan meanwhile was staring at Ryu blankly. The questions she needed answered must be spoken behind closed doors. The Land of Lightning, same time. The Land of Lightning was a mountainous land filled with thunderstorms and many clouds. Some of the mountains were jagged and tall, and very treacherous, where many explorers have lost their lives to the mountains that inhabited the land. Very few buildings could survive the terrain. One of the rare few buildings that can dwell on the mountain sides was a temple that resembled a Shaolin monastery. It was a dark gray temple with no life or color. Its buildings and roof tiles were chipped and fractured, while the door to the temple was rusted. Snow blanketed the temple, for its height was far up in the mountains and temperature was freezing. A man with blonde hair with a black coat and black armor was standing before the temple. Before the door there was a Yamabushi and a Tengu that appeared to ready to fight in their combat stances. The man that was standing before the door was none other than Naruto. He was scanning the traditional buildings with his Sharingan. Zetsu claimed that the temple and its artifact was guarded by ninja monks, thought Naruto. But he had yet to see any inkling that they existed other than this temple. He had followed the coordinates perfectly, so why did it feel like he was in the wrong place? The biting snow didn't affect him in the slightest. Zetsu said the artifact was located within the temple, and he came all this way to get it. Naruto activated his Eternal Mingekyo, and he summoned the arms of his Susanoo. The white arms were hammering against the doors. With every punch it left a dent in the door. Finally, after some punching, the door collapsed, and with it a small layer of dust obscured the blonde's vision. He walked past the gates and beheld the same dreary temple as he saw outside. It appeared that there wasn't anyone alive, only snow and the decaying temple buildings. But at the corner of his eye he could see movement, and it wasn't the blizzard that had washed over the mountain. Monks dressed in grey and white hakamas with long sleeves, they covered their arms and hands, and red obis tied around their waists. And most if not all were bold. They surrounded Naruto from all corners, seemingly unafraid of him. They all lowered themselves into fighting stances ready to battle him. Naruto was amused. He had never met ninja monks before, so this was a new experience. Then one monk started walking up to him, but kept a safe distance from him. He was dressed in similar attire to the other monks, and he was about middle-aged. Like the other monks, he was bald coupled with brown eyes. "My name is Tsuchikage, and I am the head monk of the Kagero Temple. You have trespassed on forbidden ground. It's best if you leave, before we are resorted to use force," warned Tsuchikage. But Naruto wasn't intimidated. "I don't care about your temple or the monks here," exclaimed Naruto loud enough to hear. A few snowflakes landed on his face, and were quickly melted by his body heat. "I'm here for the artifact." Tsuchikage frowned at the blonde. He was aware to which artifact he was talking about. But yet the monk also wondered how the man had found their temple, and found the treasure they had been guarding ever since the clan wars. "I am sorry, all the monks here were born to defend the artifact with their lives, so you cannot go further. I will repeat myself, leave or we will use force," threatened Tsuchikage with a glare. Naruto shrugged off the glare, and popped his neck, for he had another bad crick in that troublesome spot. "If you raise your blade at me and bare your fangs, that is your way of expressing your pride. However, there is a fine line between pride and arrogance, such as there is a fine line between love and hate, and when you raise your blade in contempt of my pride, it feels like you're saying that I'm arrogant," proclaimed Naruto. "My distaste for arrogance is great, but my hatred for vanity and hubris is suffocating," spoke Naruto. "Kamiyonaneo, Byakko, Kinja, Shinigami, Sarayu," yelled Naruto, and the spoken beasts appeared out of the mandala, and took their places by Naruto's side. "Deal with them." The beasts, the size of men, excluding Sarayu, launched themselves at the monks, while Naruto stood there unmoving. "What is this? Is this puppetry of Suna?" yelled the monk before his throat was torn from his body by the Byakko. The Shinigami was a whirlwind of death as it used its scythe to cleave the monks. The Sarayu was having the highest kill count, for it used its massive size to deal with the monks. The Kinja was using its whip-like body to strike at the monks, and many suffered broken bones and internal bleeding from the golden snake. A few minutes passed and Tatakai was the only one alive. He tried to pick himself up off the ground, but he was pinned to the cold floor by the Byakko. Naruto was standing to the side of Tatakai. Since he was the head monk, he would know where the artifact was. "Where is it?" questioned Naruto. The Byakko put some more pressure on Tatakai's back, causing him to grunt in pain. I was sworn to put the Byakko put even more pressure on his back, causing Tatakai to cough up blood. "Tell me where it is," Naruto questioned again, but this time adding some, if his color intense. Tatakai looked to his left and eyed a building. Unfortunately, Naruto saw where his gaze traveled, and he too saw the building. "No," choked Tatakai. Naruto opened the door that restricted him from entering. As he peered into the architecture, he beheld a straight-bladed katana on a pedestal. The katana's blade was black in color, and it seemed to glitter. The grip was black, which had white in the middle. There was no guard, which was perfect for the blonde. And there was a black rope, and a black chain forming from the pommel. The black rope was a meter in length, while the black chain was a meter and 3 inches. Naruto grasped the katana as Tatakai watched with anxiety. He inspected the weapon in his right hand. Before placing his other hand on the blade and using his enhanced strength, Naruto broke the sword in half. He tossed the remnants of the blade near Tatakai. "Where is it really?" asked Naruto more forcefully. Tatakai didn't answer, he just glared at the blonde as the tiger on his back pinned him to the ground. Because of his silence, he was rewarded with the Byakko's claws boring into his back, causing Tatakai to cough up some more blood and to grimace in pain. Tatakai's will was breaking. This man with the red eyes had decimated the monks and made it look easy, all the while he didn't lift a finger. Tatakai glanced at a unique stone carving on the building Naruto walked out of. The carving appeared to be swirling whirlwinds guarding a yin-yang symbol. But Naruto's Sharingan saw the glance, and the Jujutsu wielder walked up to the carving, not paying heed to Tatakai's warnings. Naruto inspected the carving as he rubbed his hand over it to free it from the snow. The artifact was hidden in the mechanism, he just had to access it and he could leave. Naruto pressed his fingers against the 2 dots in the symbols, and he heard a clicking sound emanating from the carving. The whirlwinds began to move away from the yin-yang symbol, and the icon itself opened up, now becoming 2 megatama. And from that, a hilt the exact same shape and color of the fake Naruto broke, emerged. It even had the black rope, and a black chain connected to the blade. The blonde gripped the hilt and unsheathed the katana from its stone prison. He also noticed that the weapon lacked a guard. The blade was straight and black in color and looked unbelievably sharp. He had heard legends of this particular blade from Madara. The old goat even told him that he had been looking for the sword for most of his life, even while battling the Senju clan. He said that the sword could cut through anything, and was susceptible to chakra, especially wind chakra. Naruto tested out the theory by hovering his hand near the blade, but just as he was about to touch it, a large slash-like wound surfaced on the palm of his hand. He hadn't even touched the sharp blade, and yet it had cut him. Naruto smirked in victory. The sword that took years to find was finally in his hand, the legendary Tamajiri no Tsurugi. Legend told of a sword imbued with the speed of lightning and the sharpness of wind, and that one day a dragonfly landed on the blade where it was cut in 2 by just the simplest touch. Spoke Naruto as he held the mythic sword. The blonde in the armor strolled up to Tatakai, the Tamajiri still in his hand. "Thank you for your cooperation," said Naruto gratefully. And finally, he stabbed the Tamajiri through Tatakai's head, where it pierced right through his skull. The 4 masked beasts that Naruto summoned faded away in plumes of dust. "Time to go," thought Naruto. Ewagakure. Same time. Inoki, the Tsuchikage, was sitting behind his desk attending to his paperwork. How he hated the position of Tsuchikage. He just wanted to obliterate his paperwork with his dust release. But his thoughts traveled to his ninja. Some of his shinobis had been missing recently. He knew that some of the Iwa ninja were bitter over the losses in the Land of Water. He was hoping that the missing ninja would return to the village soon. They had already suffered losses at the hands of the Akatsuki, namely Ryu Yakuze. Oh, how he wanted to wring the neck of that son of a bitch with the Sharingan. Maybe he could convince Yakuze to join his village, given how he had heard of his exploits in Konoha and the Iwa shinobi station within the Land of Water. He rubbed his back in annoyance, because it always acted up when he thought too much about things, or he was just old, and as if he had suffered enough pain. His granddaughter walked through the door. "Hey Gigi," greeted Kurisuchi, with a wide grin. Inoki grumbled something incoherent. "Not now Kurisuchi, I don't have time for you," mumbled Inoki with his arms crossed. "Oh, don't be like that Gigi, you know you should probably step down and have someone else become Tsuchikage," suggested Kurisuchi. But her grandfather was a stubborn geezer, and he wouldn't give up the title easily. "Go away Kurisuchi," said Inoki grumpily. Kurisuchi grinned even more. She loved pestering her grandfather and commenting on his age, which she was sore about. "What's wrong Gigi, you're not as grumpy as you usually are," spoke Kurisuchi. Inoki decided to give her the silent treatment, hoping she would go away. After a few minutes Kurisuchi relented and left the office in a brisk pace. "Damn Kurisuchi," mumbled Inoki. "You should be happy with the family you have, Inoki," said a dark voice behind the Kage. Inoki spun around, and beheld a man dressed in black samurai-like armor wearing a black-headed coat with red flame motifs. The man's hood was up, and he was wearing a mask. The mask was a menacing skull with 10 red lines on the left side of the mask. The man was currently playing with a kunai in between his fingers. Despite Inoki not being a sensor, he was well experienced to sense chakra within close proximity, and yet this boy had easily slipped into Iwa and into his office. Before the Kage could speak, the masked man spoke up again. "A family who, despite their flaws and annoyances, love you deeply, as I have just seen with your granddaughter." The man seemed to sigh when he finished talking, as if longing for what he had. "Who are you? How did you get into my office? And are you here to assassinate me?" asked Inoki swiftly. "One question at a time," said the man as he stuck his index finger up. "Now as to who I am Ryu Yakuze." Inoki gasped, and he could now easily see his Sharingan active. "Save your reaction for later. As to how I got into the village I walked in." Inoki didn't know if he should scowl or sigh at the man, but he did have a small sweat drop for the blunt answer. "And I am not here to assassinate you, I'm here to give a warning and to return these," said Ryu as he took out some from his coat's inner pocket. He was holding at least 5 Iwagakure headbands, some torn and ragged, and all were bloodied. He tossed them onto the old man's desk, and Inoki gnashed his teeth in anger. "They were hired by an elder of Konohagakure. I believe you familiar with him, Danzo Shimura." Inoki lost his angry expression, and changed it to a dumbfounded one. But of course he remembered what type of man Danzo was. He used underhanded tactics and well-thought-out plans to gain advantages over his enemies like Inoki. "And keep your shinobi in check, or I'll come back for their families, where afterward they will be wishing to die, for I can also use underhanded tactics, that is my only warning," threatened Ryu darkly. After that, Ryu jumped off the window ledge, and disappeared into night's wind, leaving Inoki fearful and broken. The old man hadn't felt this since his encounters with Madara Uchiha. The Land of Water. A few hours later. After the drama regarding Ryu's capture was done with, the Mizukage was exceptionally pleased that the Akatsuki member was unharmed, and Conan herself was glad that Ryu was back. They were given a new hotel by the Mizukage herself after their last one was damaged by the surprise capture. Once inside their rooms, Ryu discarded his coat and the armor on his arms. H sat down on his bed and sighed. Today was a hectic day. First he was captured and held in a dark room, then he met Danzo and tried to recruit him into Root, and he had finally found the Tanajiri node Tsurugi, which would be delivered to him very soon. He was about to doze off into neutral sleep before a knock at his door resounded through the room. He could sense the chakra signature outside the door was Conan. So he strolled up towards the door to meet with his partner, but when he turned the knob he was instead greeted with numerous paper sheets smothering him. The paper quickly bound his arms and legs, restricting his movements. But Ryu wasn't the least bit worried. Conan just wanted to talk to him, and not have him escape at the same time. Then finally the blue-haired woman walked through the door. She had discarded her Akatsuki cloak, allowing Naruto to view her without the cloak. She was wearing a revealing navy blue robe with a large hemline that exposed her arms, back and lateral parts of her C-cup breasts, along with her belly, which had piercings around her navel, and navy blue pants. She also had a kunai in her hand, most likely for self-defense, but Naruto was still unafraid. He could easily break free from the paper binds with his 9 mass beasts or his other Kamiyonaneo technique. Conan straddled the bound blonde, which caused Naruto to faintly blush, and also wonder if he was in a genjutsu, but his Sharingan saw that he wasn't. He knew a white-haired man who would possibly love to be in this position, and probably add this scene into one of his perverted books. "I have questions, so please answer them to the best of your ability," asked Conan politely in her neutral tone. Ryu knew that she wanted to be professional while also trying to hide her embarrassment. "Why did you meet with Zetsu all those nights ago?" was her first question, which made Naruto widen his eyes in surprise. She was watching his talk with Zetsu, but since she was asking, she probably didn't hear what they were discussing. "I was at the time tracking someone who had done things that his mother wouldn't be proud of," said Naruto with a smirk. Conan pressed her kunai into Ryu's neck, giving him the hint that she wasn't playing around with him. "Who?" asked Conan. "Someone who parades around with a name that's not his to begin with, who hides behind a mask because he's afraid of people seeing his visage, someone who puts the pieces in place within the shadows and behind closed doors," spoke Naruto emotionlessly. Conan widened her eyes a little in recognition, but Naruto's eyes could see everything. "You've met him?" asserted Ryu. Conan nodded her head a little. The masked man had met them long ago and still was to this day. "So he's not who he says he is," affirmed Conan, to which Naruto nodded. The pressure of the kunai on Naruto's neck lessened. Conan had always had a hunch that Tobi wasn't who he said he was. "He is just a bitter loser who got friend-zoned and can't get over the fact that person died," continued Naruto. "Tell me who he really is," said Conan, getting over his stupor. "His name is Obito Uchiha, survivor of the massacre. He was a student of the Yondaime Hokage, and like I said, is a bitter loser," answered Naruto. Conan didn't need to hear any more of Obito. "And who are you?" asked Conan impassively. Ryu locked eyes with her. "My name is Madara Uchiha," said Madara. He needed Conan on his side. He needed a loyal follower other than Zetsu. Naruto Uzumaki isn't exactly a famous name among the nations, and didn't have enough pull to sway a person. Plus officially he was dead. Madara stated Conan. Naruto nodded to her question. "You have blonde hair." "You have blue," replied Ryu. "You look like you're in your late teens or early 20s, responded Conan. "The loss of my power in my battle against Hashirama, so I had to extend my life by experimenting on my body, and what you see now is the end result," explained Naruto, which was a lie. "If you are who you claim to be, what are your plans?" queried Conan, since killing Obito wouldn't be his only plan. Ryu thought about it for some time. He had to risk it. He had to tell her about the Eye of the Moon plan, the infinite Tsukiyomi, so that she would think he was insane. "I intend to create a world of peace, joy and love. There will always be truth and never lies, where there are no winners or losers. History is written by the victors. When invading a country, each party believes it is right to attack or defend, while it is reversed for their enemies. It is the same for my battle with Hashirama. They only knew about why he fought. They never wrote down why I fought. In this world, there would be none of that, no right or wrong. By gathering all the 9 Biju and sealing them into the statue that Nagato can summon, will I be able to revive the Jupi, the 10 tails. With it, I will become the Jinchuriki, and cast my eye on the moon, reflecting it over the world, and with it everyone. Every being will be transported to a dream world, where fantasy will become reality." Monologue Naruto. Conan kept staring at him. She was intrigued and tempted by this plan. "A dream world. What would happen in this dream world?" asked Conan. "You can forge mountains, build cities, become a god, even revive the dead," continued Naruto. Conan was taking in every word that Ryu said. Tsukiyomi. Conan was then transported to a white world filled with nothingness. Then Naruto appeared before her wearing a black kimono. "This is what will happen. This is what the world I will create shall be, at first," spoke Ryu. And before Conan's eyes his entire physical appearance changed, and in his place was a youthful Madara. "Anything you ever wished for shall be yours. In this world, the one that we currently live in is filled with despair, doubt, fear, pride, violence, anger and hatred. I understand these emotions best of all. How can we live in a world such as this? I will return it back into nothingness, and create a world where none of the things I have said before will exist," spoke Madara. Conan then found herself still straddling Naruto, his Sharingan blazing. She had these uncertain feelings within her. She could see her parents again, Yuhiko. They could all be with her again. "You wish to bring them back," stated Naruto, catching Conan by surprise. "The people you loved." Conan had to hold in her gasp. Did he somehow read her mind? Because he knew what she was thinking at that moment. "I have that dream, to see my brother, my mother, my father, everyone I loved. I want to bring them back too," spoke Ryu with a hint of melancholy in his voice. "Can you really revive the dead?" asked Conan as her eyes were overshadowed. "Yes," answered Naruto in a deadpan, emotionless voice. "Do you wish to join me?" questioned Naruto, who was inwardly smirking. "I will help you," answered Conan, who still had her eyes overshadowed. She lowered her face closer to Ryu's. Inch by inch it was getting closer. "So what do I call you now, Madara or Ryu?" "Just keep calling me Ryu," replied Naruto, melancholic. Conan's face was creeping closer to Ryu's. Their lips were near touching, and his hot breath was hitting her face. She captured his lips in a passionate kiss, catching Naruto by surprise, but he returned the gesture as he began lustfully kissing her. Conan felt hot and her cheeks lit up with a pink flush. Kissing Ryu felt good. She couldn't deny that she was physically attracted to him. Naruto was right about art. Art is enjoying one's passion in the company of another. This kind of art is temporary, but it's far more enjoyable and pleasurable, thought Naruto at his own quote. Conan discarded her kunai and unbound Ryu from her paper sheets. She grabbed his golden locks forcefully, and kept kissing him with heated passion. But before Naruto could continue kissing, he felt the warm lips of Conan leave his. He opened his crimson eyes and stared at the blue-haired beauty. "That was, I thank you for letting me join you," said Conan excitedly. Her lustful mind not fully quelled. She eased herself off the blonde, and quickly hurried out of the room, while holding her face in her hands, and trying to fight down the blush that etched itself onto her face. Naruto smirked in amusement and victory. Nagato putting him together with Conan as partners was the best idea the Rinnegan wielder made. Naruto suddenly felt 2 signatures fade into his room who came in through the window. The first figure handed him Mitsubile's katana with rope on the hilt, and of course he grabbed it by the hilt, while the 2 figures dissolved into dust. Everything was going to plan, but he still needed a suitable training area that could accommodate him, because the training ground within the mountain's graveyard was not ready yet according to Zetsu's report. A preferable training ground that was dark, that could limit his senses, and had minimal space so for him to adapt to situations where the environment didn't favor him. But his greatest victory was that he finally had a lieutenant aside from Zetsu. Conan was going to be very useful. An S-rank kunoichi who he believed too could rival if not defeat Tsunade in Mei in battle. but he would have to worry around Konoha, more specifically Danzo and his rude agents. For he had a strange feeling that something bad was going to happen, and that someone would walk away alive from it. That night the wolves' howls chorused with Naruto's thoughts. And among their howls, with the music, that one soul would have their fire snuffed from the world. In Konohagakure, Sakura Haruno was walking to the cemetery, where Naruto's empty grave was. She was carrying white roses again, to remind her of her lost love for the blonde. It still hurt, knowing that her happiness with the blonde is gone. Every week she would visit the grave with new white roses. Hinata had stopped visiting 3 months after his death. Her only wish was that the blonde knucklehead was still with her, walking with her, talking with her, even just being in his presence was what she wanted at the moment. She soon saw the familiar grave spot she saw every week. Surprisingly, it wasn't broken or destroyed unlike his apartment. Maybe the civilians had respect for the dead. She was standing before the headstone, where she placed the white roses on top. She got down on her knees, and started talking about what was on her mind. "Hey Naruto, it's me again, it's so good to see you." She decided to keep her words brief as dusk was approaching. Naruto is in the land of water, so the time zone is different. I've been doing well in my studies of medical ninjutsu. I have been practicing what Tsunade-sama's monster strength, but I'm still a bit away from mastering it. I'll come by again next week, if my schedule allows me to, and I just wish you were here with me now. Would you be proud of me? And I love you. Goodbye Naruto, see you next week. Spoke Sakura. She turned and left with a small pained smile which had some glimmers of happiness. However, she didn't notice the flowers she left on Naruto's grave wilt and wither until they died. Instead of the gorgeous white, only dead gray was what remained of the flowers. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.